You're sitting at your desk, scrolling through LinkedIn during lunch break, and you see it again. Another coworker announcing that they just got promoted. Another former colleague posting about a new job that pays 20% more than their last one. Another person from your industry talking about how they negotiated a raise that basically added an extra 100 grand to their lifetime earnings. And you think, that could have been me. That should have been me. Here's what's interesting, though. That person didn't necessarily get a better investment portfolio than you. They didn't find some secret stock that tripled. They didn't get lucky with crypto. They built what I call the invisible portfolio. And honestly, it's probably the most important portfolio you'll ever have, but almost nobody talks about it like it's a portfolio. My name's Jordan, and I spend way too much time thinking about how people build wealth, and specifically how the decisions you make at work compound into actual financial security over time in ways that are kind of invisible until you zoom out and look at the whole picture. What's wild is that most people think about their portfolio as the stocks and bonds and maybe some real estate they own on the side. But your real portfolio, the one that actually determines whether you end up wealthy or struggling, is built almost entirely at work. It's your salary trajectory, it's your skills, it's your network, it's the opportunities you create or ignore, it's the negotiations you have or don't have. And the gap between someone who pays attention to this invisible portfolio and someone who just goes to work and collects a paycheck can be literally millions of dollars over a lifetime. Let's start with something really basic, but kind of mind-blowing once you actually do the math. Small salary increases compound into massive lifetime earnings. Say you start a job at $50,000 a year. You're happy with it. It's more than you made before. You think you'll just stay there for a while, keep your head down, do good work. That sounds safe, right? But here's what happens. Inflation is about 3% per year, so that $50,000 salary is actually worth slightly less in real purchasing power every single year. You're not keeping up, you're falling behind. After 10 years, your salary has the same nominal value, but it's worth maybe 30% less in real terms. Now imagine instead that you move jobs every 3 to 4 years and get a 10 to 15% raise each time. That's not unusual. That's actually how most people who end up wealthy structure their careers. You start at 50 grand, 4 years later you jump to 58 grand, 4 years later you jump to 67 grand, 4 years later you jump to 77 grand. After 20 years, you're making over 120 grand, and you've only switched jobs 5 times. The person who stayed at 50,000 is still making 50,000. They've lost 30% of their purchasing power to inflation. They have no leverage in their current company because they never left. They have no market feedback on what they're actually worth. But the person who moved every few years, they've got proof of their value. They've got leverage. They're building what I call a salary trajectory. I know someone, Rebecca, who started as a junior designer at 42,000. She stayed there for 8 years because she was comfortable and she didn't want to rock the boat. Then she finally got a promotion and bumped up to 48,000. That's $6,000 over 8 years. If she'd made 3 strategic moves, getting 10 to 15% bumps each time, she'd be making somewhere around 70,000. Instead, she's at 48. That's a difference of $22,000 per year. Over the next 25 years until retirement, that's over $500,000 in lost earnings. That's not a stock market mistake. That's a career decision, and it compounds.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Your skills are actually more valuable than any asset you could own. Because skills determine your salary. Skills determine your options. Skills determine your negotiating power. A person with in-demand skills can walk away from a bad job tomorrow and have another one within weeks. A person without in-demand skills is stuck. The wealth-building people I know aren't the ones who are grinding away at the same job for decades hoping for a pension. They're the ones who are constantly thinking about what skills are becoming valuable in their industry. What's the next thing people are going to need? What can I learn that will make me harder to replace? And then they actually invest time and money into learning those skills. They take courses, they read books, they seek out projects at work that let them build these skills on the company's dime. They ask to be on the team working on the new technology or the new process because they know that experience is worth more than their current salary. This is kind of the opposite of how most people think about their job. Most people think about their job as a place I go to make money. But the wealthy think about their job as a place where I acquire valuable skills that I can deploy for more money later. I had a friend, Marcus, who saw that his industry was starting to use a particular software that almost nobody knew how to use yet. He spent his personal time learning it really well. Within 2 years, he was one of only a handful of people in his region who could actually do this thing at a professional level. His salary went from $60,000 to $120,000. His skills changed. His value changed. That's the invisible portfolio. Nobody gave him that raise. He built it. Okay, so here's something that's kind of uncomfortable to talk about because it feels a little mercenary. The people in your network are literally worth money. Every opportunity you get, every job, every new skill you learn often comes through someone you know or someone who knows someone you know. And the better your network, the more opportunities flow to you without you even asking. I've watched this play out so many times. Someone with a great network gets a phone call. "Hey, there's an opening at my company. I thought of you. It pays 20% more." Someone without a great network doesn't know that opening exists. Someone with a great network hears about that new industry before it's mainstream and positions themselves. Someone without a great network finds out 5 years too late. And here's the thing. Building your network doesn't require being fake or manipulative. It's just about genuinely connecting with people. Going to industry events, staying in touch with former colleagues, helping people when you can, being the kind of person that people remember and want to work with. I know a guy, Steven, who's really intentional about this. Every time he meets someone interesting in his field, he connects with them on LinkedIn. He sends them a thoughtful message, not a generic request. He engages with their content. When he has useful information, he shares it. Years later, when he's looking for a new opportunity, he just tells a few key people in his network, and within 2 weeks, he has 4 serious offers. Meanwhile, other people are sending out hundreds of applications and getting ghosted. That network is part of his invisible portfolio. It's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over his lifetime.
Here's something that genuinely bothers me. Most people don't negotiate. They just accept what they're offered. A company offers you a salary. You say yes. You never ask if there's any room to move. You never ask what the range is. You never ask what they would have paid if you pushed back. You just take it. And that's wild, because every salary negotiation you don't have cascades forward. If you don't negotiate your starting salary by $10,000, that follows you forward. Your next job is often based on your previous salary. Your raise is often a percentage of your current salary. So that $10,000 you didn't negotiate in year 1 becomes $50,000 you didn't negotiate by year 15. A study showed that people who negotiate their salary earn something like $500,000 more over their lifetime than people who don't. $500,000! That's basically a house or a serious investment portfolio. But most people don't negotiate. Why? Because it feels awkward, because they're afraid of losing the offer, because they were taught that you're supposed to be grateful and humble. But here's the thing. The company already decided they want to work with you. They're not going to rescind the offer because you asked about the range. They might give you a bit more, they might not, but they're not going to walk away. I'm not saying be a jerk about it, but I am saying that a simple, "Thank you for the offer, this is exciting. I was hoping we could talk about the salary range for this position," can change your entire financial trajectory. Okay, here's something I think people don't understand. Your career decisions are life decisions. They're not separate. The job you choose determines where you live. The job you choose determines your energy level and stress level, which affects your health and your relationships. The job you choose determines how much money you have to invest and build wealth with. The job you choose determines how much you learn and how much you grow. The job you choose determines the people you're around and the network you build. So when you're deciding whether to take the safe job or the growth job, you're actually deciding a lot about what your life is going to look like. I know people who stayed at the comfortable job because it was safe, and 10 years later they were unfulfilled, they hadn't grown, they were making the same thing they started with in real terms, and they were stuck. And I know people who took the risky job, pushed themselves to learn, built their skills and their network, and now they have options. The invisible portfolio is really about understanding that your career is a series of decisions, and you're either making those decisions intentionally or you're letting inertia decide for you.
Here's something interesting. Momentum in your career compounds in a way that's almost invisible until you zoom out. When you're performing well at your current job and building skills and reputation, it creates options. You get offered new opportunities. People recommend you for things. Your next job is easier to find and better than your current one. Your next job after that is even better. It's exponential. But when you're stagnant, when you're not building anything, when you're not learning anything, the opposite happens. Your skills atrophy. Your network gets stale. You become less marketable. Your options narrow. And the crazy thing is, both of these people might be making similar salaries in the moment, but one of them is building momentum and the other one is losing it. 5 years later, the gap is enormous. So here's what I think matters most. Your invisible portfolio, your salary trajectory, your skills, your network, your negotiating power, your growth is probably more important to your long-term wealth than your actual financial portfolio. Most people obsess over their investment accounts. Should I buy index funds? Should I try to pick stocks? Should I do crypto? But they completely ignore the portfolio that's actually determining their earning power. And earning power is where wealth actually comes from. The wealthy people I know aren't wealthy because they picked the right stocks. They're wealthy because they built an invisible portfolio. They took their careers seriously. They invested in themselves. They made strategic moves. They negotiated. They built skills. They built networks. They created options for themselves. And here's the beautiful part. This isn't something that requires luck or inheritance or being in the right place at the right time. This is something you can actually control. You can decide to invest in your skills. You can decide to negotiate. You can decide to make a strategic job move. You can decide to build your network. You can't control the stock market. You can't control interest rates, but you can control your invisible portfolio. And honestly, that's probably where you should be focusing your energy. So the question for you is, are you building your invisible portfolio intentionally? Are you thinking about your salary trajectory? Are you learning skills that will be valuable in 5 years? Are you building your network? Or are you just going to work every day and collecting a paycheck and hoping things work out? Because the difference between those two approaches is millions of dollars over a lifetime, and that's worth paying attention to.